You've been serving everyone, yet being served the least. Not anymore. I'm Latoya Deshawn. Welcome again. Episode number 2. I'm coming to you live from Accra, Ghana. I said, let me get on the mic. I was hanging out and I went to this beautiful studio, John Moore Records. And I said, look, I need to get in there and let the people know you exist, that this is here. I'm still hanging out. I extended my trip and I'm about to talk about the blueprint to personal freedom. I want to thank Jamal. He is my sound engineer, and this is his studio. I also want to thank Kobe Lopez, my producer, who has been so much more than that, but producer is his name today. The blueprint to personal freedom, you guys. I'm talking to you guys from Accra, Ghana, and I want to always meet people where they are. So I can't really talk to you from where I sit today. I have to talk to you from about 2.5 years ago when I decided to change my life and pursue personal freedom. So, I created this framework, Everything on Purpose. That's the name of the podcast, everythingonpurpose.com. You guys, my company is patentleatherproject.com. And it started basically in 2018. When I fell out at a club in Los Angeles. It was the craziest moment of my life. I was hanging out, supporting one of my DJ friends. Everybody knows I'm a groupie for DJs. They are my favorite. That was my best friend while I was in Los Angeles. And so I fell out at a club, and that was the beginning of the worst pain of my life and a journey of my fibroids, a couple of surgeries, and a whole lot of stuff in between. So when I said, hey, it's time to take a change, it was about 2019. I said my word for the year was going to be bold, that I could at least say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing and I need a little bit of help. I also had contended with that fall at the club when, I fell out. I had the worst pain of my life. The Uber wanted to take me to the emergency room. I wouldn't go. And then when I went, my doctor said, let's do an ultrasound. And then a few fibroids came up. Right after that, I was in the worst pain of my life. I really couldn't move or walk, shake, do anything, I remember going home to Minnesota to visit family and just sitting on the couch for like 5 days because I was in so much pain. But we already know that us Black women, we just take it like a champ. But I was suffering, y'all. So when 2019 came, I said, I can be bold and just say, I want to find another way. And so I started to talk to a couple of people who would now be mentors to myself. And while I was also struggling and, could barely walk and bending over, I was still working on purpose. I knew that I had something bigger and better. At the same time, I was dating this guy. He doesn't matter now, but before, I was on my way to a trip to Africa, and he also was from the continent. So he invited me to a few other continents, South Africa and Botswana to be exact, while he pitched his businesses all over the world. Now, he wasn't worth much except for when I realized he was really great at business and entrepreneurship. I said, let me just continue to see what this is for me, right? Look at the purpose and everything. And so I went to Africa. I say Africa, people always laugh, but I went to a few continents. So, it wasn't just one place. It was Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, and Botswana. I also went to Dubai right before I went into the continent. And so when I went, I had a doctor, Dr. Peter Saman. He's the best. He's also from Morocco, so the north part. And he's the best doctor I've had in terms of support and to also be a man and support me as much as he did. He just equipped me with so much medicine and whatever I needed to make sure that I could do my 33-day trip, around the world. And so I had this suitcase full of stuff and, I was ready to go. I said, if I had pain, I had the solution. And so I did my trip, And I'll talk about that a little bit more later in terms of the emotional stuff, what I believed about myself at that time, and my thought patterns on a day-to-day basis, because he was fucking trash. But, you know, what I knew is that I wanted to be able to endure. It's a beautiful continent. I'm coming back home and I want to be able to see it all. And so maybe day 22, I realized that I had not had any pain at all. Like I didn't need any of my medicine. It was still sitting there. And I just, you know, having that aha, private reflective moment of like, damn, every time I leave America, like I feel great. And I knew that from when I did my first trip at 19 years old to China. And I'll talk about that later also, because that's the whole reason why I knew I was going to have a multi-million-dollar business and transform the most dynamic women around the world. But from 19, I would be getting migraines as soon as I would come back to America. It was crazy. And it continued on even when I came back from all those trips 2.5 years ago in 2019. And so I just knew that I needed a change and I was going to submit to surgery. It was already 2019. And I knew I wanted to do something different. My word of the year was bold, but after having that trip and it being so terrible, I came back and I said, I must decide that I'm not going to go through any of this anymore. Now, as you continue to listen to this podcast, you're going to hear so much about some childhood trauma. You're going to hear about some anxiety and some depression and how it has affected my physical and my mental health. But I'm just taking you to where I am today, especially since I am recording from Accra, Ghana, 2.5 years later after I wrote the vision and made it plain. I call that step 2 of the blueprint to personal freedom. So how life has changed for me working on the set of Rick James in 2019. So after I get this surgery, you know, I come back from the continent. I changed my life. I sit in the house for a while. I cry for a month. No, I went outside and I cried because I didn't want it to sit in my house. And then about a month later, I would look at Google articles that would say, what do you enjoy? What do you want to do? You know, how do you want to make people feel? It's like simple words like happy and teach and, you know, serve. And I realized it was very consistent with who I was as a person. And so I would look at all kind of YouTube videos and any kind of literature that would help me like get out of this depression I felt once I got back to the United States. About a month in, I sort of wrote the first vision and made it plain. I had already submitted to reading a book a month that year because I saw some statistics that said if you read 7 books or more, you're more likely to become a millionaire. And I said, hey, I can do that. So I had already started reading books. And so there were a few decisions I had already made prior to the big decision, but I had wrote a few visions for myself and made it plain from that point on. So about June, I read this book, Rising Strong by Brené Brown. And it's about shame and vulnerability and rumbling in the jungle and being courageous and all that other stuff. You should read that book. It's a really good book. But what I also took from it is that she said, you know, people are doing the best that they can. And for me, it was incredibly freeing because it allowed me to release what people weren't in my life and just focus on people who were. Because if you are doing the best that you can, like I can meet you there, right? I can offer you the grace there. So yeah. But then I added on another part to it because I knew that people are doing the best that they can, and sometimes their best is trash. And so if I also knew that, for me, that helped me just move forward. I call it further, faster. And that I don't have to necessarily let them know that, but I can make some decisions for myself. So the first principle of my company is you must decide. So after surgery, it was terrible, the experience I had with my mom. The surgery was beautiful. You can't even see my cut. I had about 7 fibroids, but I want to fast forward to December 2019 when I wrote the second, Write the Vision and Make It Plain. My life was beginning to change because I've already submitted, and I was working on the set of Rick James' documentary with Shoutout, and it was by far the best production I've ever worked on in my life. I had never been respected so much as a makeup artist, and been able to curate the experience I've always wanted and what I've always dreamed of in my career. And so at the same time, anybody who knows production, it's long hours, you're driving far, it's all for the project. And so I just will never forget going to the gas station, about to do an hour drive home, and talking to my mom about a situation I was having with a cousin. I look back now and I was just like, it's crazy. But in my own way, I wanted support. And so I remember after talking to my mom about it and just simply saying, hey, I need your support. She said, I don't have anything to do with it. And I'll never forgive her. I was pumping gas like a far away. And, I get off the phone with her and I was just like, okay. And then I remember God saying to me, are you ready to just listen to me now? Like, forget all of those people. They will never love you like I love you. I need you to give me 1 year of your time, of your obedience. And again, what are my options at that point? I'm tired of suffering. I'm tired of the trauma that goes along with just trying to get along. It was something that I could do. I could try another way. And so December 2019 is when I submitted to that process, and then wrote a second, Write the Vision and Make It Plain, which is the one I've posted already on my social media. So if you follow me, go check it out. Latoya Deshawn, Patent Leather Project, go follow me. But once I wrote that one, I said, now this is it. Because I don't have time anymore. I just went through a bad relationship. I went through a surgery. And now, again, my family dynamics are not great, while also my career is going well. I'm literally arguing with my cousin while I'm waiting on Ice Cube, to show up on set. Ice Cube to show up on set in Santa Monica. It just seemed ridiculous, what I was doing in my current life. So the blueprint to personal freedom is really how I started serving myself. The books I started to read, the movies I started to watch, the social media that I started to look at. It's everything. And when people choose to get coaching and get the mental health and wellness, they're choosing to show up for themselves. Because that's what I did through so many people. It was started off with doctors, clergy, therapists. It's so much. And so after 2019, and I submitted to this process, 2020 happened. I just so happened, COVID happened in March, but even before that, I was working with the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, while also working with for the Los Angeles Sparks, who's also the president of the WNBA. And this was all before COVID. I just got flown out to New York to work on the Daily Show with my client. I mean, life was changing incredibly fast because I said, I'm tired of serving everyone yet being served the least. Like, I always preach spiritual groundedness because you can't do anything without it, because there's a certain peace that goes along with, submitting to what is already yours in the first place. I was fighting. There's so many women out here fighting and doing it all wrong. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but if you choose to listen to this podcast, it's a book called For Married Women Only. Is also a series for married men only. Check that out. And then let me know. We'll talk about how you see the dynamic of partnership after that. I just know I'm tired. I can definitely be served more. I deserve. And as long as I wake up every day, that's what's going to happen. As you'll continue to listen to this podcast, you're going to listen to how that plays out in an 8-step process to personal freedom. Now, again, 2.5 years later, I'm recording from Accra in this beautiful studio with 2 beautiful men looking at me right now. I told them before I recorded, I said, I can't believe I'm about to record in front of 2 men. This podcast has nothing to do with them. And still I get up here, and have their full support. And what I tell people is that this business is about to blow up. So much money in this. This is a luxury, and anybody who chooses to support is about transforming the most dynamic women around the world. So it's not one of those businesses that's just for women. It's for anybody who believes that women deserve personal freedom. So I thank these men for allowing me to be here. I just wanted to share a little bit, but you'll see some behind the scenes once we premiere this episode of the life you can expect to live when you get out of your own way. I'm going to also talk about the coaching that I continue to do. Again, when you want to come over here, you let me know. There's so many ways to get in touch. I'll talk about that in a second. But if you desire personal freedom, if you desire to create better relationships, if you desire to enter the dreamy zone of life and do shit like be in Ghana recording a podcast and off to Botswana next, and who knows after that, stay tuned, then you need to hit me up. There's so many ways to get in touch with me. You can go to my website, everythingonpurpose.com. That's where the podcast is, right? Everything on Purpose is about getting on the front end of life, not the back. Anybody who knows about the front ends, it's a higher level. I call it enter the dreaming zone. You can also go to patentleatherproject.com so you can hear a little bit more about the company. Just know that it serves millennial women, Black women all around the world. We've been serving everyone, yet being served the least. Not anymore. Then you can also follow me socially at Latoya Deshawn, LATOYADESHAUN. I'm everywhere. I'm also, again, a personal makeup artist, a high-profile talent. I'm a global makeup artist. I do it all over the world. Soon to be signed and doing some incredible gigs. I'm already claiming it. But right now, the purpose is here. I'm able to stand here before you guys right now and let you know a little bit about me and how God has set me on this path to help transform. I could not have done this without him because it's too hard. I would have never made it. You know, I'm a bit estranged from my family. The best career of my life, a lot of loneliness and aloneness, but I'm in it to win it. So if you're here with me, you'll see exactly the life you can expect to live because I'm still not going back. And I hope you guys decide the same thing for yourself. Thank you guys so much. Look out for episode 3, Life You Can Expect to Live When You Get Out of Your Own Way. Coming to you live from Accra, Ghana. Thank you.